Half of what I say is meaningless, but I say it so that the other half will reach you. This is a quote that I feel applies to some of the characters in the Fire Emblem franchise. And one of those characters is Naesala, the dark-winged king of the Kilvis Ravens from the Tellius games. The raven is often seen as an omen of bad luck, of death, or of grim tidings. It is the bearer of bad news, the one you seek to avoid at all costs. And, right out of the gate, Path of Radiance's first introduction to the Raven tribe of Kilvis is a run-in with pirates. And the first description of those ravens comes from Soren, as he says they are ravens from Kilvis. Their black wings are an ill omen for all who see them. Right off the bat, the game has begun to condition the player to look out for these bearers of bad news and see them in a villainous role. This is an issue that will continuously plague Naesala wherever he goes. Now, I could sit here and walk you through all of Naesala's appearances step by step throughout the story in both games, but here I'll keep it short and sweet and go through a quick list to save you, and me, the time. Chapter 13. He betrays the Beorc and tells his men to loot the ships and run. Chapter 16 and 17. He sells Racem to Oliver for gold. Chapter 18. He tells his men to send the Beorc to Petrine instead of a raven messenger, so she kills the Beorc instead. In Radiant Dawn, he takes it even further and sells out the entire country of Phoenix, which leads to the mass killing of almost its entire population. I think you can see where this is going. And yet, for the most part, the Tellius games were perfectly fine with framing him as an anti-hero scumbag for the majority of the games. And, honestly, they did it right, for the most part. Naesala is a character who we see let us down almost every step of the way. We remember not the subtleties, but we never forget the results of his actions. But do we ever ask ourselves, why? It takes the full stretch of the two Tellius games to really fully understand Naesala's motives, or, for a better choice of words, his growing personality. At his core, Naesala is not a bad person. He's just a man thrust into a difficult position, in a difficult setting, at a difficult time. His home country, Kilvis, is a barren wasteland in the mountains, deprived and desolate. In these rough areas, one must do all they can in order to survive. The famous words of Disney's Aladdin, "Gotta steal to eat, gotta eat to live," summarizes this situation perfectly. And as a man who has grown up in such harsh environments, Naesala has the driving ambition to make Kilvis the best country it can be and spread it as far as he can. But as with all men with ambition, they tend to mask their inadequacies and insecurities behind a false display of fortitude and resilience. Naesala very often turns to sarcasm, wit, and deceit in order to manipulate his enemies to take the easy way out and gain an upper hand. But when faced up in a direct confrontation, he is uneasy and afraid. We see this dynamic with the Hawk King Tibarn, of whom he is very clearly afraid. This is also evident in his boss conversation with both Ashnard and Daginzia. In one, he tries his luck in being deceitful and asking to rejoin his enemy's side, whereas, in the other, he is forthright about his physical shortcomings. Naesala also has a very interesting dynamic with the remainder of the Laguz royals. One of my favorite conversations is during the formation of the Laguz alliance. Here, have a listen.
I do not believe that Dane yet has this information. If word got out that the Princess of Crimea had been granted sanctuary in Benyan, Dane might halt its invasion of Gallia.
Your information is dated, Hawk King. Have your legendary eyes and ears abandoned you after all these years?
You have something you wish to say?
Would you be so kind as to explain yourself, King Kilvis?
Princess Elincia barely escaped Crimea with her life, and then fled to Gallia. And yet, a certain king of beasts there, one on whom she had pinned all hope, chose not to support her. With nowhere else to turn, the princess and her retinue spent 2 long months at sea, arriving in Benyan mere days ago. Dayan knows of these events as well, and the king has dispatched a team of hunters to make a corpse of the girl. And that, dear kings, is the latest news. At least, to the best of my poor knowledge.
Dain knows the princess is in Benyon. King Kilvis, how did you come to possess this information?
Why, there's no trick to it. I just perk up my ears and point them in the right direction.
You expect us to believe that a stray wind carried it to your ears? This is an odd tale, Naesala.
Do you think so? Well, there is one trick to information gathering that I know. Shall I share it with you?
If it involves dealing with human scum, I'll pass. Foregoing my Lagoo's pride is not something I'm willing to do.
Ha! Is that not always the way of Phoenicus? To cling to those last tattered remnants of pride? Instead of proclaiming that you will attack none but Benyon ships, just admit that you don't have the power to do more.
What did you say?
Both of you will desist at once. King Naesala of Kilvis, your actions of late can indeed be judged as too extreme.
Black Dragon King of Goldoa, what do you pretend to know of my actions? Please, enlighten me.
I would remind you of the Bjork ship you attacked in Phoenician waters and left stranded in Goldoan territory.
Oh, that.
Naesala! You lying crow! You've been sneaking about in my territory again, have you?
I heard from my own son, Kurthnaga, that a Bjork resembling Princess Crimea was on board that ship.
It is true.
What, King Kilvis, you...
Don't act surprised. I have no intention of ruling some tiny island nation forever. I will make Kilvis a name to remember. To that, no amount of gold is enough. Laguz or Beork, I care not. If the pay is right, there's nothing I won't do.
I care not about the reach of your ambition, but you should choose your methods with more care. What good will it do to expand your domain, only to find enemies at your every border?
I will take your words to heart, for the time being. Here, we can clearly see the contrast between the ambition of Kilvis, the pride of Phoenicus, the strength of Gallia, and the unwavering fortitude of Goldoa. In a conference among men, Naesala is clearly playing the role of the immature child, trying to pull others down to his level instead of ascending to theirs. It shows not only his personal immaturity, but also accentuates his insecurities and, quite possibly, envy of those who are more successful than he is. But this all eventually changes once it is revealed that Leanne, long-lost sister to Rayson and the last remaining female of the Heron clan, is still alive. Naesala was the first to take in the surviving members of the Heron clan after their massacre and deeply cares for them. Despite him selling Rayson to Oliver, he had planned to rescue him afterwards and was only in it to take the money to further his ambitions. Leanne in particular has stolen Naesala's heart. In the last few chapters of Path of Radiance, Naesala changes sides and joins our main cast against his previous employers, Dain. And it is clearly shown in his first scene that he has done this in order to save Leanne from the evil grasps of Izuka. In Radiant Dawn, we also see proof of this in a conversation with Micaiah, who, through her power, is able to detect Naesala's true feelings towards Leanne. This also confirms the fact that Naesala is indeed putting on a front to conceal his true self, as he is immediately taken aback by Micaiah's ability to sense his feelings and closes off his emotions, which she also points out. However, despite mapping out Naesala's character and trying to explain his motives, there is one major flaw in the way his character is written that is later on explained in Radiant Dawn. Naesala's actions in the second game are due to the signing of a blood contract by a previous king of Kilvis that also affects the further generations of kings. For those who are unaware, a blood contract is the equivalent of blackmail, except if you don't obey the terms, everyone in your country will die due to a curse. I feel like this somewhat ruins Naesala's character. He could have been a character who had the ambitions to make his country the greatest, but was misguided and resorted to morally gray methods in order to achieve them. They could have shown a true change of heart and growth in Radiant Dawn instead of Plot twist, I was forced to do this, otherwise everyone would have died, so I have no regrets. However, there is a slight ray of hope in a conversation with Sanaki, where Naesala, despite not being completely to blame, still owns up to his actions, showing that he has grown and matured from the once sarcastic anti-hero we thought him to be. Naesala does eventually relinquish his rule to Kilvis to unite it with Phoenicus under Tibarn's rule, and instead dedicates his life to serving as a diplomat between all countries. He even gets a happily ever after ending, where he marries Leanne and they have 2 children. But the raven sitting lonely on the placid bust spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing farther than he uttered, not a feather than he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. Then the bird said, nevermore. Presented as a villain, perceived as a pest, portrayed as an ill omen, but ultimately one with his heart in the right place. We see him grow from immature and blindly ambitious to righteous and altruistic. Half of what I said may have been meaningless to you, but I hope that the other half, the one which contains the substance behind Naesala, has changed your perspective. Thank you all for watching the second of many character analyses to come. First and foremost, I would like to thank my collaborators, Chaz for being the voice of Tibarn, Dokes for being the voice of Canagus, and last but not least, Mags for being the voice of Deginzia. Without them, this video could not have been possible. For those of you who enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like, share, and maybe subscribe for some future analyses. And I will see you in the next one. Peace.